Hello everyone, welcome to our today's session. In this session, we are going to learn about the wonders of living world. In this unit, we are going to learn about what is an environment and what are the components of the environment and also the characteristics of living organisms. So children, can you tell me what is an environment? Yes, environment is our surrounding, right? So our surrounding consists of land, water bodies, houses, plants, animal, etc. So in this environment, we can see mainly two components, right? So, shall we study what are the components of an environment? So, can you guess or can you tell what are the components of the environment? Yes, there are mainly two components of the environment. One is the living and other is the non-living, right? So already you know the examples for living. So we can say human, animals, bird, plants, those are living, right? And the non-living. What are non-living? The glasses, bicycle, pen, pencils, stones, those are non-living. So how can you identify the living and the non-living? Yes, if an organism grows, then it is called the living. If the organism does not grow or it does not has a growth, we call it as the non-living. Okay, now let's talk about the living organisms, right? So we know living organisms can grow, and we divide the living organisms into mainly three groups such as animals, plants, and microorganisms. So you know examples for each of the followings, right? So animals can be any parrot, snail, butterfly, fish, tiger, cat, dog, right? Plants can be coconut, jack, bamboo, papaya, mango, etc. And microorganism can be amoeba, paramecium, chlamydomonas, bacteria, etc. So already you know some factors about animals as well as plants. Now let's talk about microorganisms, right? So what are microorganisms? So organisms that cannot be observed with our naked eye, right? So with the naked eyes, we can't see microorganisms. Okay, then how can we observe the microorganism? So that can be observed through the compound microscope. So to observe the microorganism, we use compound microscope. Okay. Now let's move on to the characteristics of living organisms. So as it is a living, how it differs from the non-living. So now let's see what are the characteristics of living organism. So mainly we have 5 characteristics of organisms, right? So the first one is the growth, then nutrition, the locomotion, respiration, and reproduction. So let's look these 5 characters one by one. So first we'll talk about growth, right? Yes, children, what do you know about growth? Yes, the growth is the increase in size, height, or amount.
So we know that from childhood we also gradually grow. Likewise, animals as well as plants do grow. So here you can see a picture of a kitten and a cat. So it has been grown gradually. Likewise, from seeds, plants grow gradually.
And our next characteristic is the nutrition, right? So, what do you know about nutrition? So, normally, nutrition is how food affects the health of our body, right? Or if we can say, the obtaining the food necessary for our health and growth. So, we can say that nutrition is the satisfying the food requirements of an organism. So let's talk about the food requirement in plants and animals. So normally in plants, we call the plants are autotrophic or autotrophs, and animals are heterotrophic or we call heterotrophs, right? So what do you understand by the term autotrophic? Let's see. Normally, green plants can produce their own food, right? So, producing their own food by themselves is the autotrophic. So, by which process they produce food? The process is called as the photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis occur using carbon dioxide, water, and light, and it produce their food, right? Then, next is the animal. So, let's understand what is heterotrophic. As plants, animals cannot produce their own food, right? Can we produce our food? No. So we depend on plants directly or indirectly. What does it mean? So let's see an example. Here you can see the cow eat the grass directly. So we call this eating grass or eating plant as herbivores, right? So we take plant, the animals takes plant directly. And some animal takes plant indirectly, right? So here you can see a cow eats the grass and lion eats the cow, right? So it is the plant is taken by the lion indirectly. Did you understand? So I hope that in nutrition, when we see the plants, those are autotrophics which make their own food, and animals are heterotrophic which cannot make their own food. Now let's move on to our next characteristic, locomotion, or we can call as a movement, right? So what is a locomotion? So if an animal moves from one place to another is called as the locomotion, right? So while for moving, they have many appendages. Appendages, we can say, if we take fish, we have fins. If we take birds. To fly, it has wings. And for animals, many animals has legs. So those are the special appendages for locomotion, right? And there are some modes of locomotion, right? So here you can see fish, the mode of locomotion is swimming, right? If you take snake, it creeps. Horse, it runs. Birds, flies. And human or other animals walk, like dog, cat walk, right? So these are the modes of locomotion. So it means swimming, creeping, running, flying, walking. These are the modes of locomotion, right? And you can see in animals, there are some animals that cannot move, right? Which means it cannot move from one place to another, but it can show different movements, right? So, for example, here the sea animal, which is present in the sea or oceans, and coral polyp. So, these two animals cannot move from one place to another. Those are attached to the base of the sea. Okay. Now we talked about animals, right? Now next talk about the movements of plants, right? As some animals cannot move, plants also cannot move. Not some plants, all the plants cannot move, right? But plants can show movements, right? So, for example, mimosa, right? Here you can see touch me not, that is called mimosa. When you touch it, it bends, right? It here you can see in this picture. So, this we called as it sleeps, sleeping movement, right? Likewise, Albizia, Sesbania, or we can say Katurumurunga or Agati, and tamarind leaf. All these leaves show sleeping movement, right? These Albizia, Sesbania, tamarind leaves all shows sleeping movement, right? And also there are some plants when we keep near the window side, it tends to bend towards the sunlight. So it shows a light movement, which means it grow towards the light, right? I hope everything is clear until now, right? Now let's move on to our next characteristics, that is respiration. So normally you all know respiration means that inhaling of air and exhaling of air. So let's see the definition, right? So here through the picture you can observe here the man is getting the oxygen in, and the oxygen which is moved in reacts with the food stored in the body, right? Then as it reacts with the food store, it produces energy. Okay, so this process is called the respiration. So I'll read the definition. So oxygen in the air, once breathed in, it reacts with the food stored in the body and produces energy, right? So this is what we call as respiration. Okay, then normally what do you mean by respiratory movement then? So respiratory movement means you can say the movement of chest by the process of inhaling and exhaling. So that is called as the respiratory movement. So here you can see the chest moves up, down, up, down. So when the air comes in, the chest moves up, and the air goes out, the chest moves down. So we call this process as inhaling and exhaling, and this movement is called as the respiratory movement, right? So when we inhale, we get oxygen in, right? And when we exhale the carbon dioxide outside. Okay, then when we talk about in plants, even plants do breathe, but they do not show the respiratory movement. They do not show the chest movement, but it breathes. Okay, then now next move on to our last characteristic, that is the reproduction. So normally reproduction means producing a new species, right? Now let's see the definition, right? A mature living means a old one, right? A matured one, right? Is being produced new members, right? New members of the same species. What do you mean by same species? It means if we are human beings, we can produce human babies, right? If it is cat, cat can produce cat babies. Likewise, dog means dog produce dog. So human can't produce cat. Like, so same species means human can produce human, cat can produce cat, right? Likewise, here you can see in the picture, as hen can produce hen species, and here you can see beans can produce only beans. So here you have to understand reproduction means mainly you should consider three things: a mature living, a new members, and the same species. So I'll explain again. So reproduction means it is a mature living being producing new member of the same species. So I hope that you all understood up to now. Okay? So in the next session, we'll discuss the difference between plants and animals, dichotomous key, and question, and also we'll discuss some questions in this unit 1. So please subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos. Okay, thank you.